Hello everyone and welcome back to Grow Leafy. I'm Alethea and I am so happy that you are here on this channel to learn about gardening, growing your own foods, eating it, and taking care of yourself. And so on this channel, I'm going to teach you a lot of different things that I'm learning. I am on this journey and I just truly believe that this information cannot stay with me, but I need to share it with other people. So in this video, we're going to talk particularly about seed cells and what I use and just getting started and what material that you may need if you are starting your seeds indoors or even outdoors. If you have not subscribed to this channel, make sure that you go ahead and do so or follow, depending on whichever page that you are or what social media platform you are on. Just make sure that you follow this page because I am going to be uploading videos throughout the year and I don't want you to miss anything. All right, so let's get started. So first, let's talk about starting seeds indoors. So many of you are experiencing winter months, but we are soon approaching spring in the next week or so. So many of you have already started seeds indoors and you're getting your plants growing and all that kind of good stuff. I as well started my seeds indoors and they're matriculating. Some of them are doing well, some not doing so-so, but I also started some outdoors in my winter sowing experiment this year. Really for the first time, I really put a lot of strong effort into it. Last year I tried, that didn't go too well. I didn't really put that much effort into it, but this time I was very, very intentional about it. But I in particular have been starting seeds indoors for the past few years when I started learning how to garden. And I never had a green thumb, didn't know what I was doing. Everything that I touched, I killed. So I'm not coming from I've got 20 years of experience at gardening. No, I'm coming as a person who is the girl next door, learning how to garden and learning how to do this thing and teaching others about it as I learned throughout the journey. And so I learned how to start my own plants indoors. And so in particular, I would purchase the seed cells that were like this. I'm doing this for a reason. You hear how flimsy that is? So basically I was not recycling this and using it next year. I could, but why? Because you wash it, you take it out, you transplant it, and the material just cracks. So I wasn't using that. But anyways, when you start your seeds indoors, you have to transplant them and up pot them because you're not putting it directly into the soil in the raised bed or directly, into the ground wherever you're planting. So you're planting them in little cells. This is like a 1-inch little cell, and then you up pot it to maybe like the 2.5-inch, and then maybe 3-inch, and it just keeps going and going until you're ready to put it outside. But when you start them indoors, then you have to consider hardening them off. And what that means is you have to slowly matriculate your plants to get acclimated to the outdoors weather and the temperature and the winds and the climate and just everything that it has experienced outdoors. Even the leaves have to develop like a toughness, right, to the environment. You develop a toughness. And so that's what you have to consider is that time. And so this year I tried winter sowing in milk jugs, and here's just some pictures and clippings of that. And so far, I liked it. So far, so good. So the thing about winter sowing is that the seeds start to germinate naturally with the climate, the weather. They develop very strong. They're supposed to be. Like I mentioned, I'm experimenting with that this year, but they're just popping up really, really well. And actually some seeds, for example, like my red acre cabbage, did not do too well on the indoors, but outdoors, they are just popping up. So they're doing really well outside. So that's a good thing. So some may do better outdoors than indoors, but you do have to consider hardening them off and giving it about a week, or at least about a week, to harden them off from indoors to outdoor gradually, because you don't want to shock your plants and you want to make sure that they're ready for the transplant, because if they're not ready for it, they'll die, they'll suffer, they'll get limp, and all kinds of things can happen. So I start a lot of mine indoors, but I have a bunch that I start outdoors, but then also I direct sow into my soil as well. And that's just where you directly just plant it into the soil, and that does great. So I tried different methods because I want to know what works for me, what I like. Certain seeds like different ways of growing and doing things, and then I'm able to share that information with you. So like I mentioned, See, look, prime example. I haven't even used this one yet, but you see that? Exactly. Just done. Okay, so that one's going in the garbage. That's where that one's going. And then I like I said, upgraded to this, and I was like, all right, this is a tougher material. Okay, it's a little firmer. It still has some, you know, some little poppy give to it, and I can reuse it. And actually, I have reused them from last year, so that's a better material. And I was like, great. But these are only like 1-inch type cells. They're small, and so they're only good for a little while. And then once the plants grow, I've got to, you know, up pot them to something that's larger. And sometimes I just don't have time to do that, but you have to make the time or the plants suffer. So anyways, I think the size is fine, not the problem, but you know, I still have to up pot them. And the material, it's not as firm as I really wanted it to be. Another thing that you can start in are things like this. Like I've seen people start in blueberry containers. I have as well. I have a couple of things. You can't see, my plants are sleeping right now. You know, everyone needs to go to sleep, even including my plants and including myself. I'm making this video late at night. I'm going to be going to bed in just a second. But you can start in here. That's another thing. I've started planting, you know, containers like this. You can pretty much start in anything. You can start in a cup, you know, in a cup that you would just drink some juice out of, you know, or drink some liquid, whatever it is that you're drinking. You can just start it in a cup that you use from like a party. Yeah, you can start in cups. There's a lot of different things that people start in. But here's the big thing, and I know you already see it because it's right here, right in front of you. It's not like I was hiding it, but I just ordered some new seed cells because I want to use the same material over and over and over again and get more worth out of my money instead of having to buy it over and over and over again each year. So actually, this is from Bootstrap Farmer, but I actually purchased it from M.I. Gardener because they are now selling them. And so I was like, let me get up on that opportunity quickly before they sell out. So I'm really excited. The material is really strong. I know this will last for a very long time. And it's just so tough. And these are the little ones, the 1-inch, right? But what I like is that I can group them together. If one plant grows faster than the other one, then I can go ahead and take that plant out, put it under the light. If this one didn't germinate, keep this one not under the light. And then, you know, whereas when I was dealing with this, it became really tricky because I would have part of my tray that was germinated and it sprouted and it needs to go under light, but the other one's not. And then I would just have just a tray, some of these tray cells just sitting under light, still being watered and all that. Algae started growing as well because there was just no foliage to protect the soil and to cover it up. And, you know, so I started using vermiculite. You can use that to cover and protect the soil to create a barrier between the light and that. But it was just too much. I call it too much drama in the plant life. So to reduce the drama, I am hoping that this is going to help. I'm really excited by this material. It is food grade safe. That's what they've quoted and said. And it's just such a tough material. And I'm just like, why y'all didn't tell me about this? Now, I have ordered from Bootstrap Farmer before because I do microgreens, and so I've ordered their trays, so I've known their trays are tough. But I was like, where are people getting things like this when I see it? But I'm so happy now. I've got it. Grow Leafy. I got it over here now. And so I bought a ton, just enough that I need, so that I think I have everything that I need to get started. So what I'm going to get started with now, I'm starting to get ready to start some of my warm plants. Now, I will not be putting those outdoors really till it gets warm here. And in Kentucky where I live, there's a saying out here, you don't plant outside until Derby time. So May, the first week of May is our Derby week. And no one really out here where I live in my city is really planting outside because we could get a cold snap all the way up until then, even though my last frost date is April the 10th. It's around there. It's around that. It's between the 10th and the 20th, something like that. but I'm not going to risk putting out my warm, loving plants outside until that first week of April. And so I need something that, you know, if my tomato plants are growing really large, or if my my winter squash plants are growing really large, I have something that I can up pot them in, protect it, and it's durable, it's strong, and I can reuse it, wash it out, clean it properly to recycle and use it again. Another thing I want to plant are my tomatoes, and this year for the first time eggplant, but definitely, and my peppers, those have already been sown. But my tomatoes, I'm going to be planting some cherry tomatoes and Roma tomatoes and currant tomatoes. I don't grow too many tomatoes because in our home we're sensitive to the acidity. How do you say that? Acidity. Let's just say the acid that's within tomatoes, and so I don't grow too many of them. So a lot of times I'll eat it. It doesn't bother me, so I'll eat a bunch of them and then I'll share it with my neighbors or share it with friends or people at work, whomever wants some. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But I'm really, really, really excited. And the other thing I want to mention, this little plant, let me go get a bigger one and show you. What I have here is a moringa plant, okay? And a moringa plant, from what I've learned, and I don't have all the details, I'm sorry, but let me go ahead and just post right here what I've just learned by just reading the different benefits for moringa. Okay, so that's what I have here. And it basically grows into a tree, but it takes a very long time to really grow fully mature into a tree. So the reason I'm growing it, because it won't really grow well in my zone. And I'm in zone 7. You know, last year I was zone 6, and with all the change, my grow zone is now 7. So I'm gonna grow it to harvest the leaves. So that's my purpose, is to harvest the leaves so I can use it as tea and a medicinal plant. And so I've got that, but this needs to be up potted into something larger because it just needs to be. So at some point I'm going to be transplanting it into here probably fairly shortly this week, and then put it into a big large pot and get ready to acclimate it to the weather once it warms up, because that needs warm temperatures. But that's pretty much what I have. So tell me, what are some things that you start your seeds in? What are your to-go-tos, your favorites? We all do different things. There's not one way of doing anything, okay? Let me stress that again. There is not one way of doing something. There are different ways of doing things, but you do whatever works best for you. And so I'm excited. I'm going to be starting in my new trays. Make sure you check out my video when I post that on that, so you enjoy watching how I start my tomato seeds. But I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned something. I will also post the link where I purchased these as well. But just remember to grow leafy, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye and good night.